Hello, my name's Alan Foom, and today I'm going to talk about moving beyond the Energy Trilemma, Maslow's style hierarchy of energy needs. So on the left here, you have the traditional Energy Trilemma, cost, environmental impact, and security. And on the right, you have a pyramid. Again, similar factors, but looked at in a slightly different way. So why is energy so important? Well, modern energy has given us safe food supply, variety and balance and management of the past, transport, light, heat and cooling, goods our ancestors would have dreamed of, and new varied jobs, rather than the backbreaking slog of our foremothers, and particularly our foremothers and our forefathers. Medical treatment. Now, people in OECD countries taking all that for granted. Many Asians, Latin Americans, and Africans are also keen on getting these things. They're moving from poverty to prosperity because they're going to get them. But people don't really care how these services are delivered. They really don't. What they do is they want them in a safe, cost-effective, reliable, convenient, and clean form. People don't want to use hydrocarbons. Really don't. They just want all the things hydrocarbons give them. So the moment another technology comes along, cheaper, more reliable, more convenient, clean, hydrocarbons are going to go the way they're called. They're going to get replaced like any other technology does. Processes will take some time because of incumbency effects. The energy system set up has to be reconfigured. That's going to take a generation. But an effective substitute arrives, that's what's going to happen. But at the moment, no existing technology can do what hydrocarbons can do. Might change in the future. So Sheikh Yamani, a Saudi oil minister in the 1970s, said that the Stone Age didn't end because the cavemen ran out of stone. People still use plenty of stone, but on a per capita basis, probably quite a bit less than our caveman ancestors. So what is the energy trilemma? So you're looking at three things here. You're looking at costs, environmental impact, and reliability, security, and all of them are compromised. So you can have any two out of the three. And key point here is Tanya. There are no ideal answers. Everything is a compromise. You have to see what is the big thing in your compromise that you need, that you can compromise on, the things that you can't. Different people have slightly different views on that. So just illustrating here, you can have something that's cheap and clean, but it's not going to be reliable. You can have something that's cheap and reliable, but it's going to be dirty. You can have something reliable and clean, but it's going to be expensive. In the middle is a unicorn. Now, hopefully we'll get some unicorns, but I wouldn't be counting on that. See what happens. Looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So this is pyramid published by Maslow in 1943. So at the bottom, you have the basic needs. So that's the physiological needs, food, warmth, rest, water, just something to keep you alive and reasonably healthy. Then you have the security needs, making sure that you're safe. If you're living in a war zone or living for a dictatorship, that's kind of unpleasant. Then there's the psychological needs, the belongingness, the esteem needs, and then you have self-fulfillment at the very top. And generally, according to Maslow, once this has been sorted, you will look to get things from here, and then you look to get things from here. Now, people have been criticizing Maslow. People have some alternative ideas, but I think it's a model that kind of makes sense to me. And looking at it in a slightly different way. So Richard Norris is a British guy who lives in Canada, and he comments a lot on energy. And this, he made this post on LinkedIn, which I've taken. And his point of view is that you had security of supply, then affordability, then politics, then environmental impact. So, for example, in terms of affordability, Pakistan is moving to coal because they can't afford to get any LNG. Then you have different politics. Germany buying stuff from Qatar rather than Canada, and then the wind turbines and coal mine in East Germany. So again, a hierarchy. So security, affordability, politics, and environment. So that's Richard's view, which I have a lot of sympathy for. Then you have, in reply to Richard's post, there was a post by a man called Christoph Frei, a Swiss guy, and he published a paper on this very topic back in 2006. I wasn't aware of it until he posted it. And he had a situation where access and security at the bottom of the pyramid. So if you don't get that, you don't even think about that. Cost or the efficiency and social acceptability. So you have some debate within here. You don't really have any debate. You can't even start the debate until you got the bottom sorted out. So his point of view is sorting out the base of the pyramid, the basal parts of the hierarchy before moving on to the high parts of the hierarchy. If you're interested in his paper, go to his LinkedIn page. He has a link to that. So this is my take on these two gentlemen's points of view with, my points of view within here. So bottom of the pyramid, you have availability, reliability, security. Energy system needs to make demand reliably and securely. Then you have your cost, then you have your local impact, and then you have a global impact at the top. So for security and reliability, now Westerners have taken it for granted for the last 60 or so years. It's just been there. Blackouts, brownouts, they're pretty rare. They're making the news. Developing world, I've worked in Nigeria, I've lived in India. You have a generator in your compound which chugs in when you have a power cut, and you have power cuts on a fairly frequent basis. Networks unreliable, and people are angry about that. So you need to have a system that meets demand reliably and securely. And as these countries develop, they will get there. Next part is cost and availability. Now, Westerners have taken that very much for granted. You just pay your direct debit to your gas and electricity company, and that's the way it is. Been very fine for the middle income and wealthy, but now you get into a situation with recent price rises, particularly during the last winter, where a substantial portion of the population have had challenges trying to keep themselves warm, trying to be able to cook. And, that's not right. And energy costs are a big factor, and also in quite a lot of industries, fertilizers, cement, etc., that have really suffered in the last year as energy prices have gone up. And in the developing world, people spend a larger portion of their available income on energy when they have their energy. So cost is a big issue for these people. Environmental impact. So this is a picture from New Delhi. So this is India Gate, which is a memorial to Indians who died in World War I, built by Lutyens in the 1920s, and a place called the Rajpath, which is the main ceremonial avenue in New Delhi. And you can see the effect of the smog. And the smog has significant health damage to people, and people are now starting to worry about it. And then people started to say something needs to be done. You have the real pollution, SOx, NOx, particulates, like the smog here, waste products from energy, impacts on human health, safety, water use and effluent, land use, traffic, ecological impact. These are things that people start worrying about because they want to have a clean environment to live in once they can afford to pay for it. So we want an energy system able to meet demand with minimum local adverse impacts. Then you're looking at global impacts. So that's where mainly it's about CO2 and concerns about CO2. So CO2 emissions, CO2 capex, CO2 opex within the energy system. So this is CO2 emissions due to energy from the BP Statistical World Review, and my forecast moving onwards from there. So in the blue at the bottom you have OECD, in orange at the top you have the non-OECD, the developing world. You can see that the OECD is actually declining and forecast to decline, whereas the developing world grows because they want to develop. For them, these factors here are far more important than CO2 because these factors have not been met. And they're not going to stop. Now, if we can give new energy sources that give reasonable affordability and reasonable availability and security with lower CO2, that will start reducing this problem. One interesting way of looking at things is this is a chap called Hans Rosling with the Gapminder Institute, and he had something called dollar streets. So these are different houses from relatively rich person in the United States, moderately rich person in the UK, middle income person in China, to somebody who's very, very poor in Kenya, and somebody who's starting out in Cambodia. So again, these people all have different incomes, different energy needs, and different attitudes to energy security. They have fundamentally, though, the same aspirations. They want to live a comfortable and clean lifestyle. Everybody wants that, fundamentally. So if you're looking at global income distributions, this is from our World in Data, and this is a picture of where global distributions are. So India, China, they used to be down here, they're now getting richer. As people get richer, they also get more concerned about the environment. So this is global income distribution per day. So if you take $30 a day, which is the poverty line in a high-income country, only 15% of the world's population live above that. And if you're talking, $100 a day, $36,000 a year, you're in this part of the world. So that's, we're talking, which is a, moderately middle-class wage in the West. You're talking about the top 3 or 4% of the population. An awful lot of these people, they want to get up here. Fairly reasonable thing to want to do. And as they get richer, they'll consume more energy. We need to try to make it as clean as possible for them. So looking at Maslow's hierarchy needs, so that's my take on Christoph's and Richard's models. It's pyramid, not a trade-off between factors. So you need to get the base of the pyramid sorted. Once the base of the pyramid is sorted, you can then take things further. Now, the base of the pyramid has been taken for granted for Westerners for a couple of generations. You may talk to your grandparents or your great-grandparents and they might just vaguely remember this stuff, but most people, most adults would not have done because they've had security of supply. Then comes affordability. Now, it's been an issue for poorer people who have little voice in the world, but it's now affecting middle-class Westerners, so now it's become more visible, hence appears more in the news. Then you have local impact. Now, it's becoming a really big issue in parts of Asia, like that picture from India Gate. People want a cleaner environment. They also want it at an affordable price. And then you have global impact. Now, that tends to be more of a concern for the liberal parts of the global north. That might change, but only when the other three parts of the base are taken care of. So hopefully that was useful. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.